So something happened this last week. Something pretty incredible happened. I'm pretty excited about it. It happened last year too. But it just happened again this year for 2024. And we're super excited about it. We had a great time, learned a lot of stuff. And it's called ICORE. And what in the world is ICORE? Well, come on back and join the conversation, and you'll learn all about ICORE. Hi, this is Bryan Reynolds. You're listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast, brought to you as always by the great folks over at APPRAISER eLearning. You need some education? Check us out over at APPRAISEReLearning.com. You'll be glad you did. We'll make your education fun, or at least as fun as we can, right? I was talking about ICORE a second ago. We're going to talk all about that. In fact, I've got a special guest coming up to share his perspective about his experience with ICORE in just a minute. Before we do that, I do want to shout out to our sponsor, LIA Administrators and Insurance. Thank you very much, LIA, for your continued support of the Appraisal Update Podcast, as well as all that you do for appraisers. They're at every conference supporting the appraisal community. So thank you, LIA. We'll hear more about them in just a moment. But I also want to take a moment to apologize to you as my listener or viewer. You can view these over on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Appraiser eLearning, and go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And I recommend you do that. Many of them, like this one, you can just listen to and pretty much get the same content. But many times we'll put illustrations up on the screen. We'll put a little math up on the screen. And it really is easier to follow along if you're watching on the YouTube channel. The podcast. But as you know, I've been a little MIA lately, and I want to apologize for that. It's been a rough year for the Reynolds family. I know most of you know, if you follow me a little bit, my mother's husband died January 1st, and one of my favorite aunts in the world passed away on the same day, January 1st. And so that was really, really tough. And I missed a little bit right after that. I know Hal and I were on the program, and I was just getting back in the routine of coming to you with regularity. And my mother had become ill, and she was diagnosed with liver cancer in October. And, had a great November with her for Thanksgiving, a great Christmas with her. I remember she had said, she went over and saw Miss Barnhart, and Miss Barnhart's on oxygen now and can't get out very much. And she had never had a Licks ice cream. So Bryan, I took her over to Licks and we shared an ice cream together. And I thought that's great. And then my mom shared with me, she said, I never have had a s'more. And I said, well, we can fix that for you. And so my intent was to have her over and have a fire in the fire pit and have some s'mores. And unfortunately, I didn't get to do that. However, I bought for Christmas, one of her Christmas gifts was a little bitty self-contained sucker, and we cooked some s'mores there at her house for Christmas time, and she got her first s'more at the age of 87, and I was happy that we did that. Also had plans on taking her to a UK basketball game. She loved UK. Later in life, she started watching sports a little bit, and planned on that. And my brother planned on taking her to the Farmer and the Frenchman, which is a really nice restaurant over across the way a little bit in Henderson. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do that. My mother passed away on May the 19th. And so it's been a real trying time for us. And now we've got the business affairs that go along with that. So love your family member, your friends, give them a big hug. I did a presentation at ICORE, not prepared, off the cuff, and I started out by saying, hi, my name is Bryan Reynolds and I'm dying. And then I said, it's okay, you are too. And really we all are. And so, there's sayings like, live your life like you're going to die tomorrow. You really should try and embrace that and get the most out of your life day to day, because we really don't know. I mean, I expected to have my mother another year, 2 years, 5 years. We were very hopeful with some of the treatment, radiation, and we didn't have her nearly as long as I had hoped or wished or prayed about. But anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know that's the reason that I've kind of been MIA. It's been a very trying year for us, and everything that goes along with that. We've had some certainly joyous occasions as well. My youngest daughter, got married in April, and was hoping Mom could make it to that. Unfortunately, she didn't. But what a wonderful ceremony of my youngest daughter starting a new chapter in her life with a new husband. He's a great guy. He's a pharmacist. So there's been some joyous moments as well. But I just wanted to take a moment to say why I've been MIA. I'm back now and should be back on a regular basis. And I do want to thank all the friends and families and those that really don't even know me that well for their outpouring of love and prayers. I get lots of cards and lots of emails and text messages and some flowers and different things here by many of you. And so thank you for those well wishes and those thoughts and prayers during this trying time. I certainly appreciate that. There is a lady that emailed me. I'm sure she's not aware of our situation. And boy, it kind of makes you think. She had sent an email and said sorry that she hadn't been in touch with me recently. Her husband's been diagnosed with cancer. She lost a 6-month-old granddaughter or grandchild. And Lord, my heart goes out to her, right? So prayers for her and her family during the trying time that they've had. Enough with that. I talked about ICORE a moment ago, and that's what you're here to listen about. So what is ICORE, and why did I give a speech like that? I've got my good buddy, my friend, and I am proud to call Mr. Jason Covington a friend. Jason is a practicing appraiser. He's a certified real property appraiser within the great state of Tennessee, more specifically in Nashville, Tennessee, Music City. Welcome to the program, Jason. Glad to have you back on.
Thanks, Bryan. Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for carving out a little time to do this. Thanks for sharing also with your audience, your listeners, and myself a little bit of your personal struggles. We all have them. Thanks for letting us inside to a little bit of who Bryan Reynolds is outside of the appraisal world. Thanks for doing that, and I hope that my love and support for you through the passing of your mother was meaningful and beneficial to you. But thank you for sharing that with us, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Jason. And Jason made the drive, and told me he was going to, and I said that certainly wasn't necessary, but that means so much to me. Jason drove up from Nashville and attended the funeral and stayed afterward for a little luncheon we had. My business partners, Hal and Jim, made the trip. They drove the day before for a visitation, and I certainly appreciate that. So thank you, Jason, for the kind words in addition to that. So when we talk about ICORE, right?
Yeah, let's talk about ICORE.
So we launched that last year. I talked to Hal and I said, we ought to have an instructor training conference. Some states like to see that you've went through those. And I'm not aware of too many of those that happen anymore. Let's do one. So last year we had our first one, and Hal coined it ICORE, ICORE, and ICORE stands for Instructor Conference and Retreat. That's what it stands for. And so we had our second ICORE, and Jason, I'm going to let you do a lot of the talking here. You didn't attend last year's ICORE event. You're not presently an instructor, although you should be. But you came to the event. It was in your backyard, so it was a little easier for you. No big travel or accommodations you had to deal with. But tell everybody, number one, a little bit of what you had anticipated before you arrived. Talk about day one, talk about day two, and then give us a summary of what your thoughts were. Did it meet your expectations? Did it fail? Did it exceed? Or was it completely different than anything you imagined happening? And if so, in a good or bad way? So, Mr. Jason Covington, go.
Thanks for the handoff. So for me, my ICORE experience started 2-3 weeks, maybe a month before ICORE came to town here last week. A number of my mentor friends, peers in the business, like 4 or 5 of them came up to me and said, "Hey, are you going to ICORE? Hey, are you going to ICORE? Hey, are you going to ICORE?" Like, here's another acronym, guys. That's all we need is another one, right? That's what's going through my head immediately. So I had to go online. I asked them, "What's ICORE?" "It's an instructor course." "Well, I'm not really an instructor, but why is everybody asking me if I'm going to this instructor class?" So I went online and I pulled up AEL and I looked at their instructor conference and retreat as it states online. And let me just tell you, at the beginning here, the outline for the class, it begins with "Prepare yourself for an odyssey into the heart of educational enlightenment." Let that sink in for a minute. Odyssey into the heart of educational enlightenment. Okay, so that's the first paragraph basically, and I kind of read through it. And okay, so my understanding is this is an instructor course. They're going to teach us how to instruct, go through the material. What's the proper way to go through the material? You know, I didn't really know. I had no really perceived notions as to what this was going to be, or what exactly I might actually get out of it. But a number of people had asked me if I was going to come, and it, like Bryan said, was in my backyard, and it was easy for me to attend. So I said, "Yeah, let me cut out a couple of work days and let me attend this thing and see what it's like." So I go and I show up, and just like any other course you may attend in your appraisal world life, we all were kind of networking. And a lot of us knew each other. Some of us did not. I didn't know a handful of the people in the room. There were probably 30 of us or so.
To that point, let's so I'm going to let you carry this on. But Peter Christensen was there, Tim Anderson was there, Greg Stevens was there, Josh Wallet was there. Who are some other folks that were there that you knew, and maybe some other folks that you didn't know?
Yeah, Melinda Griffin, the current president of the NAA, she was there. Barry, he was there. Pam Till from Texas was there. There was a handful, and some new ones. I met. Jennifer was new. I met her. The gentleman Steve, I forgot his last name, from the military. He told a great story. He was there. There was a lot of people, and these people have been in the industry for a while. And it was a great room. It was probably 30 of us, I guess. And we're just kind of all networking. Back to the story. We're just kind of networking and chitting and chatting and getting to know each other if we didn't. And one of the main facilitators of ICORE walks into the room and is like, "Okay, let's kind of get started. What I'd like to do is I'd like to go around the room and I'd like to have you guys introduce yourself. Let's start with you over here." And I guess the way we were set up, when he got our attention, we all kind of turned to look at him, and we all just kind of backed up a little bit. So we were kind of in a circumference. We were kind of around. We formed kind of a circle around the room, and we introduced ourselves as we went around. And as we did that, he kind of closed that with, "Okay, find your seats, get to your seats." And he immediately went into this deeply personal story that hushed the room. You could feel the audible silence was captivating. He had us on the edge of our seats, and he was walking us through a story of his that he had experienced in his life. And we sat there in amazement. Me on the edge of my seat wondering, where is this going? What is next? And so he gets through this story, and the whole room is completely silent. And what he just did is he set the tone for the next 2 days of what we were about to experience. This is not like your ordinary class. This is not like going to get your typical appraisal education. This was a life-touching, heart-mending, soul-grabbing event. As the days progressed, as we walked through the thing, there was a number of guest speakers that we were introduced to. They walked us through how to storytell, how to build a story, how to walk your listener through a story, how to flip that around. There's a number of ways to walk and build a story. They showed us all of that and examples of how to do that. How to gain confidence in front of a room and speak to an audience. I know a lot of us don't like to do that. But the facilitator on day one, with the riveting story that he told, set the whole tone for the whole 2 days. And it was nonstop engagement. I was at every turn, literally on the edge of my seat, experiencing something new every hour, every time the mood in the room would change to the next topic, It was just as deeply entrenched. I was just as deeply entrenched all along the way. It's hard to describe, and I don't want to give all this away. I think this is an experience that you can use in your life to gain yourself in a professional manner and a personal manner. So, and that's what it was for me. They allowed us at a certain time to prepare a story as well. So we all could prepare a story and go in front of the class and tell our story. And every story was different. And I think that was the impact of this class. The stories that were told and the way we kind of learned to do that was absolutely amazing. I had no idea what I was going to get out of this thing. I really didn't. I kind of prefaced it with what I thought it was going to be. There was no training as far as this is how you go through the material. You know, you start here on chapter 1 and you preface A and B. No, we're not doing that. We are growing ourselves from the inside out. We're bettering ourselves as human beings. We're bettering ourselves in our professional lives. This course, this class, these 2 days, I would highly recommend you take your time. Come to the next one if it's in Nashville or wherever they have it. Take the time to do this. This will help you in so many different ways. It was wonderful for me. I thank you guys for allowing me to come and get this knowledge and get this experience. I thank you.
So you guys can hear a little bit of passion in Jason. It's why, when he and I first met for the first time, we were kind of not combative, but you had your opinion, I had my opinion, and we, and you can hear the passion he has. If you know me a little bit, I've got a little of that in me too. And so we got together and almost exploded out in the hallway, right? And we've been friends and colleagues ever since then. Hey, Jason, there's some follow-up questions I want to have with you regarding ICORE. But before I do that, I've got to take care of a little bit of business here. So give me 1 second. Since 1978, guys, that's 45 plus years. LIA Administrators and Insurance Services has been offering E&O insurance to valuation professionals. LIA applies superior customer service, exceptional liability education, and unparalleled claim defense to serve over 10,000, that's a bunch, real estate professionals all across the country. They offer commercial bonds, general liability, cyber liability, and so much more. Do yourself a favor and visit liability.com to learn more about how LIA can help protect you and your business. Back over to Jason, JC as sometimes I refer to him. So Jason, we had 6 that I know of USPAP instructors there.
That's correct.
6, might have been more. We had very seasoned educational providers, instructors. They've been doing this, one gentleman said, since the 1970s, right? So you've got, folks with 20 years, 30 years, 40 years of experience as instructors. As Jason said, it really wasn't structured as far as, well, this is the 4 criteria of highest and best use, and these are some, good talking points when you're teaching highest and best use. It had nothing to do with that. Would you agree, Jason, that this could probably be helpful for any instructor, or for that matter, any leader, manager of an organization, an influencer, someone that has to give a speech or presentation, somebody that maybe just has a small team and is a facilitator of those teams that need to give weekly or monthly meetings. Could this be useful to someone that is not an instructor of appraising, is my question.
The short answer, yes, absolutely. This will help anybody that wants to better themselves. Period. This will help you be a better human being. This will help you connect better with others. The networking and the atmosphere that you guys created with this ICORE allowed everybody to take off the mask that they wear, whatever that looks like for you or for me. And we were able to strip down to the core of the human being. And I got to know you better. You got to know me better. And I can't tell you how impactful that is. We've all had life touching and changing moments. This ICORE class was a life touching and changing moment for me. That's what I'm trying to articulate here.
Yeah.
A manager, a leader. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be an instructor. Listen, I'm not an instructor. We already talked about that. Could I be? Would I be? Do I want to be? Yes, yes, yes. I took this course to maybe fill up my tool bag for tomorrow's opportunity. But oh my goodness, what I got out of it for today's use. Thank you. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah. So let's talk just a minute about day 2. Okay. And I don't want you to talk about other person's personal, ICORE during this session is a safe place, right? And you can tell any story you want, and you can get as detailed as you want. But it's you're going to tell a story about vulnerability, right? Something that you had an experience, something you felt vulnerable. What did you think about that session? And there was one person in the room that wasn't going to do it. She's not an instructor. And at the end, she went last, well, second to the last. And she said, all right, I'm going to do it. But don't anybody take any notes on me, right? She participated. So what were those stories like for you?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You guys created an environment that the people that loathe speaking in front of people, got up and did it because of the impact that the others made in the room. All the sharing and all the storytelling y'all did led her to do the same thing, which impacted and changed me in a way and opened up, a little bit of her heart and her soul and who is she to us. And she was willing to be vulnerable and talk to us. These stories, you could choose what you wanted. Looks like Bryan, looks like you said, you could choose any topic you want. You pick a story, you pick anything. But I think the environment that you created and the way that the facilitator on day 1 gets up in front of a group of fellow peers and changes the whole tone of the room and sets the course for where we're going and how we're going to get there was awesome. And everybody's story kind of fell along with that. They chose to go along the same lines as the facilitator on day 1. We're going to be vulnerable today. I don't know why we want to do that, but we do, and we feel it's the right thing to do. And when we all did it, it hits you in the soul. I can't tell you anything different. We've all had these experiences in life, I think, and I hope we all have. But if you want to kind of get that connection again, not only help yourself in your professional arena, but your personal arena as well, no matter what line of business you're in, no matter who your team is, no matter who you manage, no matter what you lead, go to this.
What I found fascinating was there were a handful of folks that gave a presentation that have said, I've never told anybody this.
Exactly right.
Or I've only told 1 or 2 people what I'm about to tell you as a small group in my entire life. And they felt that it was a safe enough place that they could share that, right? And we don't want to divulge any real specifics of anybody else.
Let me take that. Yeah. So for me, on the topic that you're talking about, so for me, I tell this story, the story that I told the class, and I'm not going to tell the whole story here, but the story I told the class is the story of how I became an appraiser. But it's the whole story without leaving anything out. And I leave out like the most important caveat, the most important thing in that story that led me to where I am today and how I got here and how I even became an appraiser. All started at the beginning of the story, and I leave it out on purpose. You know why? Because it's vulnerable, and because I'm embarrassed, and because it's scary to say, and because you don't just meet somebody and say, "Hey, man, here, let me tell you my story."
Let me tell you about a low point in my life, right? Just met you, but yeah.
The lowest point in my life. Let me talk to you about nobody. It's not a place on the street. You don't do that.
Sure.
But the opportunity that was given. And it was free will here. I get to choose. Do I want to go down this path or do I not? I could speak about anything I want to do. But no, I chose for the first time ever in a public arena to tell the true story of how I became an appraiser.
And it was fantastic. I had more than one person come up to me later and said, "Jason's not teaching already?" I said, "Not yet." And he said, "He needs to be." He needs to be. So we're going to get you there, brother. Hey, is it safe to say there were a couple of tears that fell during ICORE?
Listen, I'm going to be honest. Listen, I'm a guy. I am in touch with my emotions. There's some guys that just won't cry. That's whatever. I can weep. I can cry. I was in the back of the room all day. I was like, oh man, I would be laughing. I'd be crying. I'd be laughing. It was so enriching. I'm telling you, it was just so wonderful.
It's safe to say that it's engaging. We'll leave it at that. I said after last year's event that I truly felt that everyone that attended, these attendees, certainly felt closer and more connected by the time they left than when they first arrived. Do you think that's a fair statement for ICORE 2024?
Okay, so everybody that I knew in the room, I've known for a minimum of 5 years, all of them. Okay. I knew things about them after I left ICORE that made me so much more connected to them as a human being. I just fell in love with them in a deeper way. I respected them so much more in a different way. All positive. I love these humans from the get-go. But we added like whipped cream and cherry and some real world pain and hurt and stuff on it, all of it. And you know what it made me want to do? Wrap my arms around them. It was a great experience. It drew me closer to every single human in that room.
It was great. The first day we broke for lunch, everybody had lunch together. That evening we went to Barcelona Wine Bar. Everyone had dinner together. It was a great event. So, Jason, thank you so much for carving out a little bit of your time to join me today on the podcast and share your experience. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, is an honest, candid review, if you will, of what it was to you and how you experienced that. Certainly in the space of that you're not currently an instructor. So thank you very much for doing that. Hey, if somebody wants to reach out to Jason Covington and have a conversation with you, number one, what's the best way to do that? And where could somebody find you? I know you recently were on the board of directors for NAA and you'd be at those events. Are you still going to go to those events? And where are you going to be next? So contact information and where someone could actually see you live.
Yeah, it's my email is my name, jason.covington, number 13 at gmail.com. You can reach out to me there. And I'll be at the upcoming ACTS conference and the upcoming summit in Vegas. And ACTS will be in San Antonio. So I'll be in San Antonio and Las Vegas next. And I'll also be at the Val Expo. So I'm going to attend the Val Expo this year. I'm very excited about that. I'm going to be more in a voluntary work capacity, but I'm going to kind of be behind the scenes, but I'm going to get to attend. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'll be at, all the NAA stuff.
So you're hitting all three. That's awesome. So Val Expo's coming up in August. That's the next one in Las Vegas. Immediately after that is the summit again in Las Vegas. I believe that's in September. And then the following April would be the AX conference, the Appraiser Conference and Trade Show. And this year, in 2025, April, that will be in San Antonio. So great. Glad you're going to be at those. I will be as well. And hopefully we'll see some of the listeners or viewers there as well. Jason Covington, thanks once again for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time out.
Thank you very much, Bryan, for having me. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching or listening to the Appraisal Update podcast, and we're back. We're back. So look for us to be in your feed on a regular basis. If you have not subscribed to the program, please do so, whether you're listening on a podcast app or whether you're watching on the YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. We love reviews. So take a second and tell us how we're doing. Tell us what you'd like to hear. Do a little review for the program if you don't mind. I would certainly appreciate that. Until next time, make some money. Take a little break. I'm going to Florida next week for a few days. It's what I refer to as a mini vacation. And I'm super excited about that, to just be by the water and maybe have an adult beverage or two and relax, maybe decompress, get some of this stuff off my mind and recharge my batteries, because I'm ready to go. I hope you're ready to go. It's going to be a good rest of the year as we gear up for 2025 and the new changes with whatever is going to happen at the end of this year. We'll know more as the year approaches. But until next time, make some money, take a break, and happy appraising.
The Appraisal Update podcast is brought to you by Appraiser eLearning.